2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 6 to 10. We walk by faith. Our aim is to please Christ. So we are always courageous, although we know that while we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord. For we walk by faith, not by sight. Yet we are courageous, and we would rather leave the body and go home to the Lord. Therefore we aspire to please Him, whether we are at home or away. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive recompense according to what he did in the body, whether good or evil. Remember, Paul wasn't one of the 12 apostles. He only came to faith on the road to Damascus, a trip which he had planned and taken in order to persecute Christians. Oftentimes we are like Paul when we are insulted and ridiculed for our Christian beliefs. Remember what Jesus said in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 5, verse 11. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you, and utter every kind of evil against you falsely because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. Thus they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Paul was not afraid to die because he was certain that death was not the end but the beginning of an eternal life. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17, Paul says, "For this slight momentary affliction, human life, is preparing us for an eternal life and the weight of the glory beyond all comparison." This comment does not come from a man fearing death, but from a man looking forward to an eternal life. Being a person of hope, Paul says that he is at home in his body, but is looking forward to a time when he will be an eternal spirit living with God. Of course, for humans, facing death is facing the unknown. Thus, we feel anxious, and if a loved one passes away, it hurts us deeply. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. For we walk by faith, not by sight. To base your life on what can be seen, the realities of this temporal world, would be foolish. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Matthew 24, verse 35. The Christian needs, through faith, to look beyond this world and toward an eternal heavenly reward. Verse 8, Yet we are courageous, and we would rather leave the body and go home to the Lord. When you are truly in love with another and are separated from them, you are consumed with a desire to leave where you are and to be with your loved one again. Paul is saying, okay, I'm living in a flesh and blood body. I'm in love with Jesus, and as a result, I look forward to being reunited with him again. When we stand before the judgment seat, all of our thoughts, words, actions, and interactions will be evaluated, so that each one may receive good or evil according to what he has done in the body. Theologians refer to the time of particular judgment as the intermediate state, which occurs between earthly death and eternal reward. The Roman Catholic view of the intermediate state is that at death, those who died in a perfect state of grace go directly to heaven. Those who are not spiritually perfect go to purgatory for a refining process and purification of sin before being allowed to enter heaven. Those who have died in their sins and rejected Christ go to hell or eternal punishment.